Don't stay out late. There are a lot of things that roam around at night. You're out by yourself.
I haven't told a scary story in a while, but I watched this video and I heard what she said and I felt like it was the time. So some of you that have been with me for a while know that I used to tell scary stories a lot. I kind of stopped, but I want to get back into it. And also some of you may have been with me long enough to know that some creepy things, some weird things, some random things have happened in my house. So I went through a really long period in my life where I didn't have faith in God anymore. And during that time, there's some weird things going on in my house. But just subtle things that were really weird, things would be moved or weird sounds, stuff like that. So I started talking to this guy who believed in God, and he sort of kind of told me that I needed to rebuild my relationship with God and stuff. And I was completely against it initially. And you know what? He didn't bail on me at that point, and slowly I did start rebuilding this relationship that I had. So this one night, he doesn't live close to me, so this one night I went to go see him, and I stayed the night at his house. This wasn't the first time that I'd ever stayed at his house or anything like that, but I was having a really hard time sleeping, and he was asleep, and I was just kind of laying there. So I'm awake, and he starts kind of talking in his sleep. And so it kind of sounds like he's praying. And so I kind of turned to him and asked him if he was okay, and he put his hand over my mouth and was like, "Be quiet, it's going to hear you." And I immediately just felt sick to my stomach because I was like, "What?" I pushed his hand off my face, and he continued kind of talking in his sleep, sort of praying. So needless to say, I didn't really sleep at all that night. So I'm driving back to my house, and he was on the phone with me, and I asked him if he remembered dreaming last night. And he says, "Yeah, what do you know?" And I was just immediately like, "What do you mean, what do I know?" So he starts telling me that his dream was that we were in the room that we were in, and there was a black shadow figure thing in the corner, and it was coming for me, and it was going to attach itself to me. And I hadn't told him that since I had been more open to praying and things like that, that I had started seeing this black shadow figure thing in my peripheral vision around my house. So I immediately panicked, and I told him about it. And he said, "Whenever you get home, you need to bless your house." So on my way home, I stopped at Walmart, picked up some stuff that I thought would be helpful in blessing my house. Never done this before. So I did what I thought I needed to do to bless my house, but things got a lot worse. If you're interested in knowing what happened next, leave a comment and I'll make a part 2.
Night, you're out by yourself. You're vulnerable. Something's going to attach itself to you.
You guys, this is the 5th attempt at trying to make this video. This is part 2 to the story I started yesterday. And no matter what I do, somehow the video keeps getting played over and you can't hear anything I'm saying. So hopefully this time it works. So where I had left off was that I had come home and I blessed my house. This is actually the sage I used to bless my house. And I did the best I could with what I had. So I'm just gonna go over some things that had been happening in my house. So scratching. There would be random scratching in this hallway closet that I have that we don't use for anything, but nothing was ever in there, and my cats were always trying to get into it. So sometimes I'd open the door and let them go in just to see, but nothing was ever there. Weird, unexplainable, rotting smells just randomly in weird places, like the living room, the garage, my bedroom, and it would be there and then it would kind of fade away. Random loud bangs or thuds that made no sense of where they could be coming from. So when all this stuff initially started happening, I follow other TikTokers that talk about paranormal stuff, and one of them said you shouldn't have mirrors facing each other, and I did at the time. So I moved the mirror, but now one of the mirrors faces my bed at night when I sleep. I don't know if that's a thing too, but it does. Sorry guys, I feel like this is going to be a multiple part story, but... So the night that I did the blessing on the house, I woke up in my room to tapping on my bedroom door. And I'm here by myself, so I was kind of panicking. I got up to see what it was. So I walked over to the door, I opened it, nothing's there. I walk down the hall, I go and look in the kitchen, the living room, all the other places, nothing. So I walk back into my room, and the mirror that's hanging on my bathroom door that faces my bed is only being hung up on one side, like the other side had fallen off. I was like, okay, it's a really cheap mirror from Walmart, this side probably just broke. It wasn't broken. Still in my head, I'm like, it's a rational explanation for this. So anyway, I checked into my bed, my closets, the bathroom, everywhere, couldn't find anything. So obviously I'm kind of freaking out, but I laid down and go to sleep. Well, that night I had a dream about this encounter I had a few months back at the cemetery when I was visiting my great-grandmother. I'll have to make a separate video about the encounter I had because that's a whole other story. Basically in my dream though, it was somebody telling me that I had a renewed faith and that things were going to get worse before they got better because of this. I'm working on part 3.
You're out by yourself, you're vulnerable, something's gonna attach itself to you.
Okay, so let me just tell you real quick why I keep stitching her video. So she's basically saying you shouldn't be out at night, especially not by yourself, because something could attach itself to you because you're vulnerable. Literally, I'm such a night person. So in the evenings, not necessarily at night, but whenever the sun is kind of setting, I've gone to the cemetery before to visit my grandpa and my great-grandma's graves. A few months before all this crazy stuff started happening at my house, I was visiting my great-grandmother's grave. And I had stayed there a little later than usual, and the sun had gone down and it was night. I'm getting ready to leave and I turn and I bump into somebody. I say, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. I walk around them and go to my car, because why were they standing so close to me anyway? It was summertime and I kind of glanced back and there was a guy standing there. He was wearing a trench coat and a hat, super weird. I walked super fast to my car. When I got in my car and looked back, he was gone, nowhere to be seen. It was 3 days later when things started happening.